just like finding a job. You don't want to be sending your resume to every place, although people do that. You want to be more focused on certain industries and certain types of jobs within industries that you want. So once you have this content, the hardest thing is to think, wow, what would my music really be best for? And then you really dive in and find out who the people are, the movers and shakers are, who actually are involved in the placement of that music, and present it to them in the appropriate way.
Give me an example of you meeting with a content provider who's done their homework. What type of interaction do you have with them that alerts you to the fact that they've done their homework and they know what they want and they know where they want to get it placed?
Well, I actually use Twitter a lot to get my requests out. So when I get very specific and I need a song for a specific scene or a specific issue, I say I need a song that sounds like this or lyrics about this. And when a songwriter then sends me material, it's really very narrowly pinpointed for that particular project. Okay. And that's ideal, and it's great. And there are some people, individuals for that matter, who do provide me with exactly the right things. And many times I've used their music and sometimes not. It's just really a matter of what works. And content creators have to also understand that the music supervisor is not the be-all end-all. They are servicing directors, or whoever's running the project, and therefore that music, even though they filter it down to present to the director is the ultimate person who's going to figure out or choose what music is being used.
What is the likelihood of those chances of getting the music placed through a music director?
Well, it's pretty slim, but I mean, I also recommend to composers and songwriters to attend film festivals, because directors really don't know. I mean, some directors are really into music, and so they find things on their own. But most are totally, they're so focused on other things that music is very secondary. But when you go to a film festival and you have CDs and you can actually present it to directors and it's like something they can bring home, it actually does work. And a lot of composers and songwriters get jobs that way, or they get their music placed. But yes, a director might be given some music. If they like it, that's usually the last call. A supervisor can recommend something, but it's the director who really needs to put their stamp on it.
Gotcha. And it seems to me like there's more emphasis on music in television shows, music in soundtracks in terms of soundtrack scores, soundtracks. And then advertising, which is one of those areas that doesn't get discussed very often. If you had to summarize the differences between those three, what would it be?
Well, the payment is the biggest one. Now you get paid the most in advertising. But the ironic thing is now that when you're putting it out there, the reason why TV is so desirable, honestly, is because generally as a songwriter, you join a PRO, Performing Rights Organization. And when you do that, your representative there is very interested in you having TV placement, because there's so many residuals that you can make from television use. Now with film, there's not so many up front, but now because of the way in America our TV system is, a lot of those films, documentary or independent or even major motion pictures, are now seen on TV because they're filling, Showtime, and all these stations want more content. So the films are now becoming on TV, which allows them for residuals. Now with advertising, there's not so much residuals there. There's a little bit, but there's not so much. So the person actually, the content maker, makes more money up front. You get less money for TV, a little more money for film, but a lot of money for advertising. But the back ends are just the reverse. You probably get more on the back for TV, so for film, and almost nothing for advertising.
Once upon a time, there were a plethora of third-party music licensing companies. Let's say a company like Megatrax.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And people didn't know much about music licensing, but they would meet these individuals who were representatives of these third-party licensing companies. And they were like, send your music to us. If we like it, then you'll do a deal with us, and we'll go ahead and find a place to place your content. and then we will negotiate on your behalf. What is your recommendation with regard to third-party music licensing companies? Do you think this is good for the music artist as a career strategy, or do you think that artists should bypass them altogether and just get the music placed directly?
I think it depends on how much music you have. If you've got I mean, I know some composers that have so much material they don't know what to do and it's just sitting there. So if it's just sitting there and you can give it to a third-party licensing company, sure, go ahead and do that. Especially music library, that'll take a lot of instrumentals. Give it to them, and whatever they place, it's just like it makes money for you without you doing any work. That's the key thing about them. If you only have a handful of songs that you've actually written, then really you need to go to a music placement company that's actually going to place it instead of a third party. There's a difference between like the mega tracks, which is more of a library, where they take the music and then they repackage it and they put it in their library so that you can make small amounts of residuals for where it gets placed, because they may be doing blanket licenses with television networks too. As opposed to a music placement company, which is an individual that will actually go try and place your individual songs.
Okay.
And you'll make money just by each one of, you'll be told when your song is being used, you'll get money, you probably get greater money up front for that use, whereas Megatrax they're in the business for doing blanket deals and licensing a lot of music out and getting the artist gets smaller amount of money, but they get a lot of residuals if it gets placed in TV.
Which is not how 7Cs operates.
No,
you guys are content acquisition.
Yeah, we're content acquisition. We are people see us as a library, but we're not, because we don't do the small deals, the blanket deals, and we actually negotiate each deal on its own. But we are doing exactly that. We are exposing these artists that aren't doing anything with their content to media creators that need this content. And instead of them going to a library where the music will be watered down and not sound like it's from that country, we're providing income to artists in those countries where it's more significant.
If I'm a music artist and I'm very resourceful, are there sources that I can go ahead and look at on the internet to help me find outlets for the placement of my content?
Oh, yeah. I mean, as I've mentioned, the Film and TV Music Guide that is put out is a great book of in-house people and music supervisors. I highly recommend that. Or you do your research and go on IMDb and you watch a TV show and you really like the music, and so you search who the music supervisor is, and then from that you press the link to the music supervisor and see what other shows they've done. Or you go to events where there are supervisors, or track them down. I think that those are the best. That's the resources. As I said, I think IMDb. That book is great. If you want to do it in advertising, there are fewer places actually in advertising, but there are, what I would do is get a resource of advertising agencies or branding companies in certain areas, like if you live in Atlanta, or if you're going to New York, or just look up Creativity. I believe that's a name of a branding publication, and they have a list of the top 20 or top 50 ad agencies that are doing creative things. And you just see what the creative agencies are. Then you have to call each one of them and find out who's there, because I don't know of any big resource for ad agencies. But there are people in-house at the bigger agencies that have lots of great music supervisors, and they're really open, and they're voraciously listening to music and voraciously interested in getting stuff. And because they're not in TV and film, they don't get hit up honestly as much.
They're not inundated.
But they are, or what you want to do is find out who they are and then ask to be on what they call their call out list, which is when they get a request for something, they will send out a call out like, hi, I'm looking for German hardcore music for, this new, I don't know, skateboard ad that we're doing or something like that, being filmed in Berlin. If you have anything without vocals or with vocals sung in German, then, please send it over.
Nice.
And they'd usually tell you like what sort of format, like an MP4, MP3, or how they, and send it in a hightail link. And They're very, very specific. And the big ad agencies actually want you, they're not going to go into your system. They want you to feed them music. But they are very open and very receptive. And you'd be surprised. I mean, I'm shocked. I've been at some companies where their tables are clean because everything's digital.
All right, Brooke, we've arrived at the point in this interview where you provide crash course tips. And what I want to know specifically are your tips for cashing in on content.
My first tip would be that all the information needs to be accurately labeled, not only on the CD or the digital download, but also the spelling needs to be correct when you register with your PRO, so that the information can be accurately written down on a cue sheet, and that's where you're going to get paid. If something is spelt incorrectly on a cue sheet, you will not get paid. The second aspect I would say is to don't sit on your content. Market yourself and get your content out there. And then my third point, which I feel is very important, is to network. And networking is important for all aspects of the business. You want to network with filmmakers, or if you want to start writing for games, you have to go to game industry events. You have to pay that money to go to the conference, go to GDC, go to the composer part of GDC, find out who the organizations are for musicians and composers, which there are for gamers. You need to go to whatever local either NARIS organization or composer organizations, or if you're a member of ASCAP and BMI, those organizations have events. They have educational seminars. They have schmoozing events with people, filmmakers and ad agencies and TV producers. And that networking to me is one of the most important aspects, because when you network, then you can follow it up with emails, and you can therefore follow it up with your music on a CD or as a digital download with all your information accurately labeled, and that's how you're going to be able to get the gig.
Excellent. Love those crash course tips. Thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
It was great.